Before there was Michael Jackson's moonwalk, before there was any pop star provocatively moving on stage, there was Elvis Presley, the man who literally changed the world with his hips. In the conservative 1950s, Elvis didn't just sing rock and roll, he embodied it with every shake, swivel, and curl of his lip. His moves were so controversial that they got him threatened with arrest, filmed only from the waist up on national television, and labeled as a danger to American youth. But those same moves made teenage girls scream, parents clutch their pearls, and an entire generation embrace a new era of freedom and rebellion. Elvis Presley wasn't a trained dancer. He didn't choreograph his moves or plan them out. He simply felt the music and let his body respond, drawing from gospel church services, blues performers, and his own raw instinct. The result? A performance style so electric, so visceral, that it became the blueprint for every rock star who came after him. Today, we're breaking down the 8 signature moves that made Elvis Presley the king of rock and roll and changed popular culture forever. Let's get started. Move 1. The hip swivel. This is the move that started it all. The one that earned Elvis the nickname Elvis the Pelvis, which he absolutely hated. The hip swivel was Elvis's signature, and it was pure instinct. As he sang, his hips would move in a circular, swiveling motion, left and right, perfectly synced to the rhythm of the music. It wasn't choreographed, it wasn't planned, it was just Elvis feeling the beat and letting his body move naturally. But in 1950s America, this was scandalous. Women had never seen anything like it on stage, and they went absolutely wild. The hip swivel became the most talked about aspect of his performances. On June 5th, 1956, during his performance of Hound on The Milton Berle Show, Elvis unleashed the full power of his hips, and the nation lost its mind. Critics called it vulgar, animalistic, and a threat to moral values. Parents feared he was corrupting their children. But teenage girls? They screamed louder than ever before. Elvis defended himself, saying, "I don't roll my pelvis. I just get rhythm with the music. I'm not trying to be vulgar." But the controversy only made him more famous. The hip swivel wasn't just a dance move. It was a cultural revolution in motion. Move 2. The rubber legs. Elvis's rubber legs were one of his most mesmerizing moves. His legs would shake and tremble in a controlled yet wild manner, as if they had a life of their own. It looked effortless, but it required incredible muscle control and rhythm. The leg shake usually happened during high-energy moments in his songs, and it added an extra layer of raw, physical energy to his performances. The move came naturally to Elvis. He later revealed that it actually started because of nerves during one of his early performances. His legs were shaking from anxiety, but the crowd went crazy for it, so he leaned into it and made it part of his act. The rubber legs became iconic during performances of songs like Jailhouse Rock and All Shook Up. Elvis would plant his feet and let his legs vibrate and shake, creating a hypnotic visual that was impossible to look away from. The move was so distinctive that it became one of the first things people associated with Elvis. It wasn't just dancing, it was pure, unfiltered rock and roll energy channeled through his entire body. The rubber legs proved that Elvis didn't need fancy choreography. He just needed to feel the music, and his body would do the rest. It was instinctive, electric, and absolutely unforgettable. Move 3. The lip curl. The lip curl is one of Elvis's most iconic facial expressions, and is just as famous as his dance moves. Elvis would curl his upper lip into a sneer, creating a look that was equal parts rebellious, seductive, and dangerous. It became his trademark expression, instantly recognizable around the world. The lip curl wasn't something Elvis practiced in a mirror. It was a natural reaction to the music and the emotions he felt while performing. Combined with his smoldering stare and his charisma, the lip curl made Elvis irresistible to audiences. The sneer appeared in almost every performance, music video, and photo shoot. Whether he was singing a ballad like Love Me Tender or rocking out to Hound Dog, the lip curl added attitude and intensity to everything he did. It became so iconic that it's now instantly associated with Elvis, even decades after his death. The lip curl wasn't just a facial expression, it was a statement. It said, "I'm different, I'm dangerous, I'm rock and roll." In the conservative 1950s, that sneer was a symbol of rebellion, and it helped define the image of the modern rock star. Elvis didn't just sing, he embodied the spirit of rock and roll, and the lip curl was proof of that. Move 4. The knee slide. The knee slide was one of Elvis's most dramatic and visually stunning moves. During high-energy moments in his performances, Elvis would drop to his knees and slide across the stage, often while playing his guitar or throwing his head back in passion. It was a move that required confidence, showmanship, and a complete disregard for playing it safe. The knee slide wasn't about technical precision. It was about raw emotion and connecting with the audience in the most visceral way possible. Elvis often used the knee slide during the climax of a song, creating a moment of pure theatricality that left audiences breathless. It was a move borrowed from gospel performers and blues musicians, but Elvis made it his own by combining it with his rock and roll energy. The knee slide became a staple of his live performances, and it's still imitated by rock stars today. From Mick Jagger to Bruce Springsteen, countless performers have dropped to their knees in homage to the king. The knee slide wasn't just a dance move, it was a moment of surrender to the music. A physical expression of the passion and intensity that made Elvis Presley a legend. When Elvis hit his knees, the crowd knew they were witnessing something special. Move 5, the little finger wiggle. This move has one of the best backstories in rock and roll history. In August 1956, Elvis was scheduled to perform in Jacksonville, Florida, but a local judge threatened to arrest him if he made any of his controversial hip movements on stage. The judge and police were in the audience, watching his every move, ready to throw him in jail if he stepped out of line. So what did Elvis do? He played it safe with his hips, but he wiggled his little finger instead, mocking the absurdity of the whole situation while still putting on a show. The little finger wiggle became a moment of rebellious genius. Elvis would hold up his hand and wiggle just his pinky finger, a subtle but cheeky act of defiance that drove the crowd wild. It was his way of saying, "You can't stop rock and roll." According to his guitarist Scotty Moore, that's where the curled lip and the little finger thing really got started. The move became a symbol of Elvis's playful attitude and his refusal to be completely controlled by conservative authorities. The little finger wiggle may seem small, but it represented something much bigger: freedom, rebellion, and the unstoppable force of rock and roll. Elvis found a way to be himself, even when the system tried to silence him. Move 6, the Cowboy Strut. The Cowboy Strut was Elvis's signature walk across the stage, and it oozed confidence and swagger. With his legs slightly bowed and his hips swaying with each step, Elvis would strut across the stage like he owned it, because he did. The Cowboy Strut wasn't flashy or complicated, but it was magnetic. Every step was filled with charisma, and audiences couldn't take their eyes off him. It was a move inspired by his southern roots and the cowboy culture he grew up around, combined with the rhythm and attitude of rock and roll. The strut was most prominent during performances of upbeat songs like Blue Suede Shoes and Jailhouse Rock. Elvis would walk from one side of the stage to the other, commanding attention with every movement. The Cowboy Strut wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about presence. It was about making the audience feel like they were watching the coolest guy on the planet. And they were. The strut became a blueprint for rock star attitude, influencing everyone from Jim Morrison to Axl Rose. Elvis didn't need to jump around or do backflips. He just needed to walk, and that was enough. The Cowboy Strut proved that sometimes the simplest moves are the most powerful when they're done with absolute confidence and style. Move 7, the Toe Stand. Yes, Elvis did the toe stand too. Long before Michael Jackson made it famous in Billie Jean, Elvis Presley was rising up on his toes during performances in the 1950s. The toe stand requires immense balance, core strength, and calf control, and Elvis used it to create dramatic, iconic moments on stage. He would rise onto the tips of his toes, hold the position, and let the audience take in the full visual impact of the moment. It was a move likely inspired by classic Hollywood dancers like Fred Astaire, but Elvis brought his own rock and roll edge to it. Elvis often used the toe stand during slower, more emotional moments in his songs, adding a sense of elegance and drama to his performances. Combined with his signature hip movements and his expressive face, the toe stand became another tool in his arsenal of unforgettable stage presence. While it's not as famous as his hip swivel or leg shake, the toe stand shows that Elvis had a wider range of performance techniques than people often realize. He wasn't just a wild, gyrating rock star. He also had grace, control, and an understanding of how to use his entire body to captivate an audience. The toe stand is a reminder that Elvis was a true performer in every sense of the word. Move 8, the Smoldering Stare. The Smoldering Stare wasn't a physical dance move. but it was just as important to Elvis's stage presence as any hip swivel or leg shake. Elvis had a way of looking at the audience, or into the camera, that made people feel like he was speaking directly to them. His eyes were intense, seductive, and filled with emotion. Combined with his lip curl and his natural charisma, the Smoldering Stare became one of his most powerful tools as a performer. It wasn't just about the moves, it was about the connection he created with his audience. During ballads like Love Me Tender and Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis would lock eyes with the camera or gaze out into the crowd with a look that melted hearts. But even during high-energy rock and roll songs, his eyes communicated passion, rebellion, and confidence. The Smoldering Stare worked because it was genuine. Elvis felt the music deeply, and his emotions showed on his face. It's what separated him from other performers of his era. He wasn't just going through the motions. He was living every moment on that stage. The Smoldering Stare reminded audiences that Elvis wasn't just a singer or a dancer. He was a magnetic force of nature who commanded attention with a single look. And there you have it, the 8 signature moves that made Elvis Presley the king of rock and roll. From the scandalous hip swivel to the playful little finger wiggle, from the dramatic knee slide to the seductive Smoldering Stare, Elvis didn't just perform music. He revolutionized what it meant to be a performer. He took the stage by storm, broke every rule, faced down threats of arrest, and inspired generations of artists to move, dance, and express themselves without fear. Elvis Presley proved that you don't need formal training to be a legend. You just need to feel the music and let your body do what comes naturally. His moves weren't calculated or rehearsed. They were instinctive, raw, and real. And that's exactly what made them so powerful. So, which Elvis move is your favorite? Can you do the hip swivel? Have you ever tried the rubber legs? Let us know in the comments below. If you loved this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Version Vault, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into music history. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep rockin' like the king.